Anyone who has ever accidentally stepped on a dog's tail has probably wondered if dogs can understand the difference between doing something by mistake versus doing it on purpose. Now, a new study suggests that, at least in some circumstances, dogs do seem to know when their humans have just screwed up. I have to say I was surprised. I didn't expect to have this clear picture, says Juliane Bräuer, head of the Dog Studies Lab at the Max Planck Institute for the Science of Human History in Jena, Germany, who published her team's findings online Wednesday in the journal Scientific Reports. But not everyone buys her group's conclusions. I'm not convinced, says Clive Wynne, the founding director of the Canine Science Collaboratory at Arizona State University in Tempe, who did not work on this study. I think it's a fascinating question, but it's a tremendously difficult question to get a handle on, and so at this point I think the jury is still out on whether dogs actually understand human intentions or not. To try to probe what dogs might be able to comprehend about people's intentions, Bräuer and her colleagues asked dog owners to bring their pets into their lab. The experiments involved 51 dogs, and the canines were first taught that an experimenter would feed them tasty treats through a gap in a glass partition. And then we interrupted this established pattern by suddenly withholding the treats, explains Britta Schünemann of Harvard University, who did this work while at the University of Göttingen. Instead of being passed through the partition, the delicious treats this time stayed on the experimenter's side of the glass. The dogs could see them there, tantalizingly close, on the floor. Sometimes the treats ended up there because they were withheld by accident. In those cases, the experimenter attempted to pass the treats through the partition, but clumsily dropped them. Or, the gap in the glass partition was closed up, and the dog could watch the experimenter try to pass the treats through but fail. Other times, however, the experimenter showed the dog the treats through the gap in the glass partition and then deliberately withdrew them, intentionally placing the food on the floor next to her seat. Every single time the dog failed to get food, no matter why the treat was withheld, the dog could simply walk around the side of the partition and gobble up the easily seen treats. But whether they did this, and how quickly, seemed to depend on whether the person appeared to have denied the dog the treats either accidentally or on purpose. Dogs approached the food on the floor quickly when the experimenter failed to give it to them by accident. But when the experimenter had deliberately withheld the treats, the dog seemed more hesitant. They waited longer before going around the partition to try to eat it. Some dogs didn't even try to get food that was intentionally withheld. Instead, they simply sat down,